All right, here we go, and we are back. We are keeping this train rolling. Just had a great opportunity to talk to the USET president, Matt Winters, and really share about the event and talk about the combination of USET and UELMA. And I want to bring our next guest on because he has been waiting over an hour because I had to move the event, and I feel bad about that. But since he's 2 hours in the past for me, he hasn't even caught up to the Boston time of 5:30. So I think we're going to let that slide. So I'm excited to welcome in our next presenter, Braxton Thornley, to the Stronger Together podcast. Braxton, thanks for jumping on and being patient.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Of course. So for those of you who are out there watching or listening who don't know your work or your journey into education and where you're at now, feel free to share a little bit about your journey in education and your current role.
Yeah, thanks. So I started out in education as a high school language arts teacher, and I did that for a few years before transitioning to my current role, which is at the Utah Education Network. And with UEN, the Utah Education Network, what I do is I'm a senior technology trainer. So I work with schools and districts and teachers to ensure that they're integrating technology into their classrooms in a way that's effective and engages students while still allowing teachers and students to connect with each other.
Awesome. And what has been your drive to go into that lane? And you were talking about your early years in the classroom or in education, and now working at a much more statewide role.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one thing that I think drives most educators is that we want to make a difference in some way. And in particular, I see that appearing in, we look at the current situations that we maybe find ourselves in or our students in, and we want to find ways to make that better. And that's true for me as well. But specifically in my current role, one thing that I find really exciting about it is when I was teaching, I loved teaching. I loved working with students and continue to love doing that. However, I was really interested in finding a way to be more involved in the state as a whole and get to know different contexts a little bit better and understand what different schools and different districts are doing, just so that I could get a better picture of what our whole system here in Utah looks like.
Awesome. And so if you don't have a chance to follow Braxton and his work they was talking about, make sure to follow him at Braxton Thornley. And one thing I was going to ask you about your handle and your work, you must be a longtime user. So one of the things that, like, I have a Mac email address, and it's, Matthew Joseph at Mac, and my Twitter or X handle is at Matthew X Joseph. So either there's not a lot of Braxton Thornleys, or you've been into the tech world and using, Twitter, then X now for a long period of time. Am I close?
You know what? I think I mostly got lucky. I've been there for a while. I think maybe like coming up on 3 or 4 years, but not super long. So I think I just got lucky with the slightly.
Okay. Awesome. So now I was just talking to Matt Winters, and he was saying there's almost 400 sessions for individuals to choose from. And one of the things I've been asking the guests who come on and the presenters is to give a little insight, like a little trailer to the sessions that you're going to be doing. And it seems like this AI Ignites, there's a lot of people doing that, because I feel like every time I talk to a different person, they're like, yeah, I'm part of this and part of that. And then on Wednesday, you're doing a Flip It session, and then demoing tools for like a tool slam and different things. So as people look through the sketch, tell a little bit about what you're going to be presenting on.
Yeah, so that first session that you mentioned with AI, what we're doing is they're Ignite sessions. So they're just really quick 15-minute sessions. And so there are a lot of us who are just sharing like really quick insights into how we've used AI. And I'm particularly interested in using AI to prompt students to think a little bit more deeply and think critically about things. And so my take on it is we can frame AI as almost a critical thinking partner that engages students with difficult questions that ask them to really evaluate their own thought processes. So that's the first session. But then after that, the next session that I'm doing is on Flip, which is a great tool for allowing students to record videos that they speak to each other and basically host asynchronous discussions. And particularly what's interesting for me with Flip is that you can use it as a tool to gather student resource banks and have students support each other. So when I was in the classroom, one thing that I like to do is give my students opportunities to show that they had mastered content in a variety of ways. And one of the ways they could do that was by recording a video that explained the content. I then checked it as the teacher to make sure it was okay. And then it went into like our classroom video collection. And so if a student was absent or a student was maybe struggling, they could always refer back to that and learn years about different topics. So that's the idea behind that session. And then the final one is a demo slam, which is just the premise of that is we've asked a bunch of educators from around the state to submit really quick videos of them highlighting one trick or tip in some of our statewide tools that we have in Utah. And so we have videos on a variety of topics from Nearpod to Canvas to Adobe products. And these educators are just sharing like really quick tips on how to use those more effectively. And I just get to MC that one. So I'm not really communicating too much of my own ideas there. I just have the honor of presenting others.
So that's a lot going on, and you're talking about a lot of collaboration. And in your role, you must have to work with other individuals to show some of these tools. Where do you go for your learning?
Really good question. A variety of places. There are so many good opportunities to engage with people online. And you kind of mentioned this before with Twitter too. I found a lot of opportunities to just chat with people back and forth online. So those informal opportunities are really important to me. Beyond that though, I really love opportunities like this where we get to come together at conferences and bigger spaces so that I can not only present myself, but then I've also saved a little bit of time where I can go and hear from others as well. And part of the really valuable thing for these situations, at least in my opinion, is the chance to talk with other teachers and see what's going on in their classrooms right now. What problems are they experiencing right now? What new ideas have they had? And I just love the chance to do that. So anytime I can talk with educators, that's great. Anytime I can be in schools and district offices and see teachers doing their work there, that's fantastic as well.
That's great. So how many times have you been to USET?
This will be my third year.
Okay, awesome. Do you have like a special memory, a special like this was a time this happened here, I met this person or I learned this tool?
You know what? The first time I went to USET, I was really just captivated by the amount of energy that was there with the presenters and everyone who was even just attending. Everyone was so excited to be there. It was this like collaboration of people who were just really invested in what they were doing. And that energy has kind of propelled me to continue to want to go and look forward to it every year. And so I'm looking forward to that this year too.
Awesome. So you're on the earlier side. You said only 3 years. So, so you can attest and share to like being new at the event. So for the first timers, what would you give as a kind of a tip for the first timers coming?
Yeah, really good question. I would say that one thing that was helpful for me was, well, maybe two things. The first is that I would add a lot of stuff to your sketch. I would say anything that looks kind of interesting, add it, because the mistake I made my first year is the sketch came out and I put together kind of an agenda of what I wanted to do. And I had like one session per hour that I added to my agenda, right? And then that morning, I just, maybe some of the sessions I didn't feel like I wanted to go to anymore, or maybe I was with a colleague who wanted to go to a different one, or I was with a group of colleagues and they said, where should we go? And I only had like one idea to throw to the group. And so what I do now, and I've found that it's a lot more effective, at least for me, is I add like 4 or 5 different sessions for each hour. That way, when I'm with people and I'm with colleagues or I'm with a teacher and they say, hey, we should go to a session together. What are you going to? I have the opportunity to give like a few options and we can narrow on something that works best for both of us instead of going to a session that's maybe great for one of us, but not as helpful for the other. And so the collaborative nature there is really important. And that kind of leads into the second idea, which is one thing that's been really valuable for me, is finding time in the conference to talk with other teachers or colleagues about the things that you have been learning. And that's what helps me retain it. So again, this is pretty informal, but I love going to lunch with friends and colleagues and just talking about the sessions I've been to and kind of critiquing and maybe like stretching my thinking by asking questions and having them ask me questions. And that's really what's made it powerful for me.
That's awesome. So you've talked a lot about, in your sessions. And again, if you are going to schedule, make sure to add these three: Tuesday at 10:45 and then Wednesday at 12:45 and 3:30. Check out the work that Braxton's doing, or as the MC and the host in one of the events. But you talk a lot about collaboration, and you talk a lot about chatting with folks at lunch and different things. So the last question I always ask is, what does stronger together mean to you?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it a little bit in preparation for our conversation, and two main things come to mind. And the first is that everyone has their own blind spots that we bring to the table, right? There are things that I'm an expert in, and there are things that I am absolutely not an expert in. And so when we get a group of people together, one of the powerful things about having a group is that when groups work well, we are more than the sum of our parts, and our expertise grows into something larger than what we would be able to build just stacking individual expertise on top of itself. And so we have so much more knowledge that way. We have so many more ideas that way because we eliminate a lot of those blind spots. But then the second thing that really stands out to me that I think is really important and that we sometimes underestimate is our capacity to inspire each other. And just being with each other and having an opportunity to talk about our work and be excited with each other, even if I don't necessarily learn something from you, even if we only talk about things that I was already fairly familiar with, your energy is infectious enough that it propels me into doing my work better and showing up for my students better and showing up in my life a little bit better. And so I think a lot of times we underestimate the power of just being present with someone and the power of that presence to ignite a little spark inside of us.
Awesome. Well, that was great. And it was great to talk to you. Again, sorry I had to wait a little bit, but you're going to get to see Braxton. Make sure to follow down below at USET and at UELMA_Utah as well. And make sure to check out Braxton's work at Braxton Thornley and see the great things and things that he's going to share next week. So look forward to meeting you in person. Make sure that you find a way that you and I connect at Salt Lake City and get a chance to meet you in person. So thank you for stopping in and taking some time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, and for all of you watching either live or on replay, make sure to continue to watch all of the presenters and hear about their sessions as we get ready. And just now under 1 week, since it's 3:42 there, we would have already started and had almost a full day in at USET and UELMA. We'll see you in Salt Lake City in about a week. See you, Braxton. Have a great day.
See ya. Have a good one.